This presentation is all about getting the best use out of all Microsoft Office 365 applications. There's so much that Microsoft Office 365 has to offer, from small all the way to really large organizations. However, the current reality is that most organizations are only using about 20% of the available capabilities, and 80% they don't even know about it, or they just not have not had time to actually dig into it or using it effectively. So why not understand the entire value of the suite of Microsoft 365 applications so your users can take full advantage of what you're already paying for anyway? Also keep in mind that there will always be multiple ways of doing the same thing in the Microsoft sphere, so you'll have different ways of doing document sharing, surveys, forms, workflows, site creation, etc. So do take this with a grain of salt and do it whatever is best for your organization. In this session, I'm going to focus on the what and the why, not the how in this case. So you'll understand exactly why you should care about certain applications, why you should not, and what they are, but not the exact click here and this is going to happen. There are plenty of good presentations out there for digging into each application. Now this is a bit older version of how you used to see Microsoft Office 365 apps, but bear with me here because I'm going to try to make a point with this slide specifically to show this is what your users see. They see a lot of different applications all scattered across, and they need to decide at this point, where should I be starting at? Where should I be looking at? Why should I care about any of these applications? So let me try to make this a little bit simpler and try to divide them up into specific categories. We'll start by taking away the top banner. Then I'll take mail, tasks, people, calendar, and call this group Outlook. Okay, that's how we do Outlook, right? Messaging, calendaring, etc. Then I'll take OneNote, Excel, got Word, OneDrive, PowerPoint, and Sway, and To Do. Okay, and this particular group over here, we're going to call this Office. That's the Office applications. Then we have Power BI, that stands by itself actually. It's got the visualization, business intelligence visualization, very powerful ones. Then you got on the other side SharePoint, Groups, Yammer, Planner, Microsoft Teams, and we'll call this group Collaboration. That's where collaboration, the back and forth, happens in these ones specifically. Then you have Security and Compliance. That also stands by itself. This is where you set up security and compliance if you need to. You have Administration. This is obviously where all the administration of Microsoft Office 365 happens. Then you have Power Apps, Flow, and Forms. And this group is going to be Workflows and Forms. That's where the automation happens, the forms happen, things like that. Then you got Store. That's the App Store that happens. That's all by itself. And I won't be talking much about this particular one in this presentation, but just so you know, that's where you go to purchase apps or to acquire apps, right? My suggestion always to all administrators is you want to make the apps available from the store to your internal organization instead of having everyone, giving everyone the ability to go out themselves to the store. That would probably not be the best thing to do. Now, Delve is also by itself. Let me talk about Delve for a second before I go to the next one. Delve is where it's actually bringing all of your content related to you and to your colleagues to yourself. So it's almost like a portal, a my site, so to say. You go there and you see anything that relates to you. Okay. Then lastly, we have Stream and Video. Now video is being phased out. Stream is the new one, and that's the video portals. That's where you gather, you arrange, your content. If you record anything in Teams, it automatically goes into Stream. If you have other content, you can upload it to Stream. It has great transcription abilities and just like an internal YouTube basically for your organization. Okay, if you're already using video portal, I would definitely recommend transitioning to Stream. A little about myself. My name is Asif Rahmani. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called VisualSP based out of Chicago, Illinois, USA. And our focus has been and continues to be, how do you make end users successful with all Microsoft 365 applications and even beyond, other enterprise applications that they're using within their company. How do you get them information, help, communication, training at their moment of need in their flow of work? So very much contextual micro-learning. That's what I focus on. That's what our company focuses on as well. Throughout my journey, as you can see, I've been blessed to be able to be a part of the community for Microsoft 365 for a very long time before it even existed. Wrote a few books on it, have traveled to many different places to meet folks like yourselves, to deliver presentations. There's my email, my contact information. If you would like to contact me, go for it. I look forward to hearing from you. Now the big question, should we be using all Microsoft Office 365 applications? You have to ask yourself that before you begin. There are many of them, too many of them. Should you be using all of them? So keep that question in mind as we go through this presentation. Let's look at the agenda of this presentation, what we're going to be talking about. We'll be looking at a fictional company's example and their Microsoft Office 365 journey. We'll look at various use cases for various Microsoft 365 applications. Why would they use it? Why would they not use it? We'll talk about that. I'll also talk about lessons learned from my own experiences for other companies' successes and failures. Now, I won't be able to name specific companies to protect their anonymity, but I'll be talking about some specific use cases as I get a chance in this presentation to give you, things that did work and things that don't work also. We all need to understand what are the failure points also and try to stay away from them. This fictional company that we're talking about, the name of the company, obviously, Contoso Corporation, Microsoft's favorite. The business that they're in is change management consulting, and the employee count is 150. Okay, so that's the company profile. Keep this in mind also as we move forward. Let's go over the requirements that this company has. We always want to start with requirements, right? Exactly what do they want to accomplish with Microsoft 365? So as you can see here, first it's talking about communications, email and chat. Everybody needs that ability to email externally, internally, and then ability to chat internally. They need, of course, various document types processing, Word, Excel, PowerPoint type of things. Document management, where do you store all this stuff? Storing, easy sharing, easy access. They need an internal company website also for company-wide communications. Okay. They need a consulting tracker application. It is a consulting company, so they need to be able to track consulting hours easily. So we'll look into that. And obviously there's many different applications you can do this with, but we're going to see what makes best sense for them. And then also project tasks tracking application. They need to be able to track their tasks and be able to assign tasks to other people and things like that. So we're going to see exactly how that can be done. Now, these are the only 6 requirements for this particular company. Obviously, in a bigger company, there's a lot more that you have to do and more applications that you need to use. But we're going to keep this in mind to try to keep the story and a narrative for this one company as to what they will use and also what they will not use and why will they not use that. So this company, for their requirements, they decided on Microsoft Office 365. Now, the one specific licensing that they went with is Microsoft 365 E1, and that's $8 per user per month. Now, what you get with that is a lot of basic applications. You get the Office Online, you get OneDrive, SharePoint, Stream, and a bunch of other things. what you don't get, the major thing that you don't get with this one is you don't get any desktop Microsoft Office applications. And their reasoning for this particular fictional company, Contoso Corporation, that we're talking about, was that if we did go and get Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. for desktop, it goes from $8 per month to $20 per month. Okay, so that's a pretty big substantial difference when you're looking at a 150-person company in this case. So they went from previous desktop apps directly to the cloud. So let's look at their deployment journey. As I'm going through these slides, the way I'm going to do it is that the app that I'm talking about is going to be on the top right, just like that over here. Okay, so right here we're talking about the admin center, so that's why the admin app tile is right there. Please keep that in mind. Now the administration center is very much where the tenant admin does things, right? Many of you watching this presentation are probably not going to be tenant administration, and that's okay, but it is good to understand what's happening, what are the main things that are happening at the administration center. So I'll cover this briefly and then we'll move on. Okay, so there's obviously billing is being managed at the admin center. You set up the users, everybody, the groups and the users directly at the admin center. If you have a domain, so we have VisualSP.com, for example, we have to attach that domain at the admin center as well. You can track usage by the users. You can have different dashboards and stuff like that directly there. You can also activate and deactivate services like analytics and teams and other things. Okay, so that's the main, of course, place where all of these licensing are provided, and the activation, deactivation is happening for various services, as you would assume. Another application that you may not have access to, but still it's good to know, Security and Compliance Center. Okay, so we got a Security and Compliance tile, for example, top right. Here there's already a bunch of default protections that have already been set up. So even if a company decides, you know what, we're not going to do anything, we're not going to set this up, we're just going to take default protections, I'm going to show you exactly what default, or at least tell you what default protection looks like. So automatically all the data being accessed by your users is audited. Okay, that auditing is already happening for security and compliance. Notification when someone else gets added as a tenant admin. So if you're a tenant admin, you'll definitely want to know if other tenant admin gets added. Usually it's a small group of people, and you want to be sure that the right people are getting added to this thing, not too many. And also very important, when anyone in the organization is sending out information that could be categorized as sensitive information, like credit card information or social security number or other kind of stuff like that, the admin automatically gets notified. Okay, so this is for the protection of the company, and that's just, it just flags it. Basically, it may not be anything, but something that admin would have to look into and make sure no real sensitive information is leaving the organization. So, and these are the, like I said, the default protections already set up by default. You don't have to, they don't have to do anything to make this happen. And then there are a lot of things that admins can do at the Security and Compliance Center afterwards. Now that we have briefly discussed the administration applications and got them out of the way, now we're going to go dig in deep and talk about user-focused applications. So we're talking about Teams, OneDrive, Office apps, Yammer, SharePoint, and everything else in between. We'll start with one of the easiest ones first, the To-Do application. Now, the To-Do application is a very simple application where you go ahead and manage your to-dos, right? Your to-do lists, as it shows over here. It's available on the web, as well as there's a really awesome application on Android and iPhone as well. I use it on my Android all the time. And the To-Do application, very simple. You put your to-dos in and you can cross them off over here. Simple. Now, there's another really good thing about the To-Do app is if you have to-dos from, let's say, Microsoft Planner, which we'll talk about later, those Microsoft Planner to-dos, which are your project tasks from your teams that you're working with, also show up here. So you can also bring them into To-Do application and have one place to mark off the things that you're doing. There's a People app, a People tile. like that, right? And then folks wondered at Contoso, do I need this? What do I do with this? So when you go into that app, when you go into the People app, it looks something like that. Just a quick screenshot of it. And it is pretty useful, actually, turns out, because folks at Contoso Corporation, you have 150 people, but many of those people belong to various different groups, right? Same people are in marketing and administration, let's say, or some folks in sales are also in operations and things like that. It's a small company. So when you wanted to see you want to see the membership of all different groups, Office 365 groups, and exactly change the membership of the groups that you own and look at it from a people-centric view specifically, that's where you use the People app. So you manage the group memberships, see exactly who is in each group. You can email people directly from here. You can see if they're available or not. A lot of good stuff like that that you can do. You can discover, connect with coworkers. So that's what they did as well. At 150 people, Contoso Corporation also has been getting to a point where people started wondering, well, who is that new person that just got hired and how are they related to me, and are there any similarities? So that's where you can go to an actual person, person within the People app and see their attributes. Okay, so that for these reasons and more, the People app turned out to be pretty beneficial. Here's the People app, and this is how it comes up. First, it tells me my favorites. In this case, I have these 3 different groups that I belong to. In fact, I believe I'm the owner for all of them, and I can find that out easily by going over here to the left, clicking on Owner. Where am I the owner of? Yep, it's the same ones. I can also see where am I a member of. Oh, none. Okay, so I'm the owner of these. What I like the best, a couple of best things about the People app. One, I can just go into, for example, Adele Vans, go into a specific contact, look at all the information that they're sharing that's public, look at who their manager is, give me a really good snapshot of a person. In this case, look at the about information. There it is, their interests and hobbies, everything is right there. Organization, exactly who reports to them, who do they report to, if they're sharing any files. Yep, Adele is sharing a couple of files, so I can see that as well, and other information just like that, right? I can start a chat, send an email. Okay, the next best thing in this case, if I go to the owner groups over here and I say, you know what, I'm a part of, I'm the owner of retail here, let me either invite others, or rather yet, I can just add people directly by clicking on this ellipsis right there, click on add members. I can add a group all together if I wanted to, or I can add specific people. Let me just show you if I wanted to add a group, Tailspin Toys. Boom, just like that. These 4 people in that group will be added if I did that. So an easy, let me not do that right now, leave. So an easy way to manage my group memberships, as well as to see folks at a contact view, at a personal view. This helps quite a bit from the People app. Now, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, I'm going to touch on this just briefly here because chances are that all of you listening to this presentation know exactly what these are. You know, presenting your content with PowerPoint and presentations. Microsoft Word, you're doing your editing, word processing. Excel for your spreadsheets, right? Now, the biggest transition for Contoso Corporation in this case is to go from desktop applications, desktop versions of these applications, to Office Online applications. Definitely a big transition. You're doing everything in the web browser. Everything is getting saved automatically. There is no save button that you need to click. You know, as soon as you start a new document, a new PowerPoint, Excel, whatever, it's just there. It's saved. It's doing everything for you. And you can easily collaborate with other folks. So they found that the collaboration became much easier. You can be working on something and pull in, hey Jill, could you come help me with this thing? And Jill can enter the same document. You can see exactly what she's writing, what you're writing. The co-authoring is right there. So that was wonderful. There were some missing features. So Microsoft desktop applications for Office are definitely they're more feature rich. The parity completely is not there completely yet for Office Online applications, right? So for example, inserting table of contents within Microsoft Word is not possible through Office Online yet. And that's just one of the many different things that are not possible. So sometimes you do have to go to desktop applications, but what these folks found at Contoso for their small company and for their needs, Office Online, especially at the price point, worked great, and they were able to transition everybody to that successfully. Now, Contoso is a consulting company, so when they are showing their prospects different possibilities of what they can do change management consulting on, they of course need a presentation mechanism, and they've been using PowerPoint since the beginning. And PowerPoint everybody's comfortable with, whoever needs to be comfortable with that. So the question became, there's a new product, there's a product called Sway, there's a tile for Sway, and they know that this is also a presentation mechanism. The question is that, should we use Sway or not? The good thing about Sway, there's quick to create presentations. You can make it directly within your web browser. It just becomes available. It's easy to share with others as well. You can just send a link to someone and that's it. You don't have to transfer along the PowerPoint presentations. And it's like a quick web page that you're just sending them. And you're making this presentation on this web page with media-rich things such as images, video, table. You're literally making a web page, and then you're sending that to someone very quickly. Now, the cons obviously pretty obvious. PowerPoint I'm pretty comfortable with. Now there's another application that I have to learn. Okay, is there enough benefit for learning it or not? So in this particular company, for Contoso we're talking about here, PowerPoint, they stayed with that because it's still evolving. It's not like a dead product or anything. PowerPoint is still growing and getting better and better. So they stuck with PowerPoint just because there was nothing broken. So it was hard to fix something that's not broken. Sway, once again, don't get me wrong, it's a great application, but the actual usage of Sway in the world right now is not that big. And when you want co-authoring and you want to have other people use the same product that you use because you're working together, it helps, of course, when they're already comfortable with that product. So because of that, Sway has not gotten as much traction. So Contoso also chose to not use Sway. That was their final answer for that. Alright, so there's this requirement: users need to manage their own business documents. Right? Contoso as a company, all their personnel were using services like Dropbox and other things like that. Okay, that's what they were doing for years, to just do easy collaboration, easy managing their own documents and then sharing it as needed also. Then they were told at Contoso Corporation that you need to transition to OneDrive. Now many folks at Contoso were not happy about that. They were pretty comfortable with Dropbox. So going to OneDrive, that's a big jump. Why would you want to do that? Well, let's talk about that. So if employees are already comfortable with Dropbox or something similar to that, they need to understand exactly what's in it for them. If they are just being told to do something because it's quote-unquote better for the company, that's not enough usually. They need more motivation. So let's talk about that specifically. Alright, how do you get users to switch to OneDrive? First of all, you have to empathize with the users, and that's exactly what the Contoso admins did also. How? Well, admins also became Dropbox users if they were not already. Okay, so truly understand exactly what Dropbox offers. And then they made a list of pros and cons of why you should switch from Dropbox to OneDrive. And then they demonstrated the pros of switching in a town hall meeting within Contoso. So I'm going to give you some examples of exactly what they said. There's native support for automatically saving documents in OneDrive as you work on them, right? So you're going in Word, Excel, something like that, and once you're opening up a document and you're putting stuff in there, it's already getting saved. There's no save that you have to do. In Dropbox, obviously, if you're using desktop applications, which many of them don't even have access to anymore because of their licensing, you actually have to go and put it into Dropbox and you have to save it. So there's an extra step in OneDrive doing it. It's completely, totally integrated with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and others. Also, when you're sharing documents, it's so much easier to do it when everybody has a license to a certain application, in this case OneDrive. So now not everybody has Dropbox and Contoso, but everybody has OneDrive because of their licensing with Microsoft 365. So the sharing becomes a lot easier. And last but definitely not the least, when you are ready to share your document that you were creating, let's say you're working on the HR document or some policy document, and you've collaborated with a person or two, and now you are ready to move it to a repository. That repository is going to be in SharePoint in a document library. Now that transition, the migration, is so much easier from OneDrive to SharePoint compared to if you want to do it from Dropbox to SharePoint. So that's definitely what was a big sell for Contoso folks as well, when they realized how easy it is to take their personal documents from OneDrive and promote them to SharePoint compared to what they're used to with Dropbox. So here's another requirement that Contoso has, which is they need a workspace for their team to collaborate. Right? They need to do task management, they need to chat with each other, have online meetings, team calendars, and easy way to do note-taking. Solution obviously is Microsoft Office 365 groups. The groups are basically a foundation for everything that you do within Microsoft Office 365. Right? You can have permanent groups, but you can also have temporary groups as well. So permanent groups could be things like, groups for your sales team, your marketing team, executives, and so forth. A temporary group could be for a specific project that's going to be from, let's say, February to August, but you need a place for people to collaborate to build together, and then once you're done, you can archive that group if you like. So you can have temporary groups and you can have permanent groups. When you do have a group, you get all these services as part of the group. So you get your team, within Microsoft Teams, you get SharePoint, you get Stream to hold all of your video content if you have any, you have Planner for task management, and so forth. So all these things come within group. That's the reason Contoso also decided that we're going to go with groups. Most of us are used to being in Outlook all day long, right? So the great thing about Microsoft Office 365 groups is that you have the groups right here. It's right here within Outlook. Right, you got them here. I could just go into a group conversation, like my retail group conversation, directly from Outlook, and that helps quite a bit for my adoption as an employee to go from my Outlook conversations, which are right here, to my group conversations right there. Retail, market, project team, sales and marketing, etc. So conversations I can access directly here. Wonderful. But in addition to that, I can also go to other group services from here too. I can click on this ellipsis and say, you know what, let me go to the notebook of this group, or the planner for task management of this group, or SharePoint site. Let me click on that. Here's the sales and marketing SharePoint site. So any communication is going to be right here. Documents, lists, everything is right there. A very easy way to do that. Second really good thing, in addition to the inbox and conversations, I have the calendar icon right here. If I click on that, it takes me to the calendar. But now, by default, it's showing me my own calendar, which is great. But I can also click on a group calendar, here like that. And let's click on a couple more here. Here we go. Here's a sales and marketing event. And here's some Mark 8 project team events. I can even uncheck this one. Now I can see just the group events. Or I can keep that checked. Now I can see all the events that I have, and I see there's some overlap as well. Actually, these are, I think, the same ones from showing in my calendar from the group. Anyway, so a great way to see overlapping events from different groups that I belong to really helps in the calendar setting as well. This slide is thanks to the folks from Jump to 365, so thank you guys. This slide actually does a very good job in describing when you instantiate a group within Microsoft Office 365, exactly what gets created. So there are different places where you can make a group. Okay, let me explain that a little bit. You can make a group directly from Outlook. You can say, all right, I want a group. Once you make a group, you get the following. You get from here to here. So you get your plan, you got your SharePoint site, OneNote notebook, Stream, you got your Power BI workspace, and you have your Outlook email inbox and shared calendar for that particular group. Great. And same thing when you're making it from Planner, from SharePoint, and from Stream. So all that same exact stuff that you get. Okay. Let's use a different color here. Now, if you're doing it from Yammer, if you're a big Yammer shop, like that, then you get all these services here. So you get less. You don't get the Outlook email inbox, you don't get the Outlook shared calendar, and you don't get the Teams specific thing. You don't get that. Okay, let me actually take those off. And the last one, but the one that's the most popular and something that I would recommend as well actually, is making a group through Teams. When you're making it through Teams, super popular obviously these days, you are getting everything except Yammer group. And you can always make a Yammer group separately as well, obviously. So folks in this world these days who are using Teams, and there are many of them, they just click on add a new team and they get all the services, okay, except Yammer, like I said. And once again, you can make Yammer groups separately, and that's been the predominant way to make new groups. That's what I would recommend as well. Make a new team that gives you a whole group and you have everything except Yammer. All right. For Contoso, that's exactly what they decided to do also. They made it a requirement that anytime you needed a new Microsoft 365 group, you went ahead and did it through Microsoft Teams. So you went there and you made a new team, and that gave you a group. Since we're talking about Microsoft Teams, let's dig into it a little bit more over here. It's a chat-based workspace, right? Easy way to chat with each other. It is organized by teams in the company. So as I was saying before, you could have different teams for sales, marketing, operations, etc. You can have channels that exist within each team to discuss specific topics. You can have a channel on analytics. You can have a channel talking about web pages. You can have a channel talking about your Google ads that you have going, and just different channels to talk about different things within each team. You have great video chat capability. So if you can go in there and have meetings and chats, even ad hoc meetings easily with other folks. Connectors to other services. You can bring in many things like your planner board directly within Teams. You can even bring your Yammer, if you have that separately, directly within Teams. You can bring your SharePoint pages, documents, all kinds of stuff can just be brought within Teams. You can also have private chats as well. So if that's needed, you can have the private chats when that's needed, when a channel conversation doesn't make sense. You can also send emails directly into Teams. So if someone says, you know what, I'm so much more comfortable with Outlook, but I do want to collaborate with folks in a team, you can give them an email address to a particular channel in Teams. And when they email that channel, it goes directly in that channel, and everybody in the channel can see it. Now keep in mind that the back end of Teams, especially for the document, is all SharePoint. Okay, so SharePoint is needed. The SharePoint document libraries, the SharePoint site collections are the ones that power Teams interface. So you're still using SharePoint, but you're using it from the Teams interface. It's an important point to remember for folks who think, well, we're not using SharePoint anymore, let's get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. SharePoint is still there, and it's powering a lot of these services that you're consuming through Teams. If you're not familiar with it, this is what Microsoft Teams looks like. Let me give you a quick overview over here. Yeah. So you got, these are the different teams: sales and marketing, retail, Mark 8 project team. And in this case, the way I look at it, you got these things which are permanent teams, and then you got the one with, let's do red over here, that's like a temporary team because it's for a project. You can instantiate these teams. You can also go ahead and take those teams out, archive them later if needed also. And then within each team, you got these channels. This is where you have channel conversations directly with people who are in this channel. Yeah, really good stuff. You can chat with people right here. Okay, this is private chats. You can see all your activity right there. I use this quite a bit to be able to see all the different activity that's coming in, kind of like your inbox almost. You got your calendar right there. You can start a new meeting. You can schedule live event also. Then you can make calls, manage your files. A lot of good stuff here. Of course, I'm not gonna do a deep dive into Teams, but making a team like this thing. So if I made, for example, the retail team, then that makes an entire group underneath it. It has the planner, stream, SharePoint, everything else for retail as soon as I make a new team, just by going over here, join or create a team. Now, Contoso has a need to the ability to make quick anonymous surveys. Okay, how do you do that? Well, they chose one of the Microsoft 365 applications called Microsoft Forms. Forms lets you make really quick surveys within Forms. So Forms is you started using Microsoft Forms right in the beginning when you have some specific need to make some quick, easy form. Keep in mind that for complex forms you want to go to Power Apps. That's not here. But anonymous forms specifically work wonderful within Microsoft Forms. Now, as far as creating forms is concerned, you have a couple of different applications. You got Forms, and then you have Power Apps. Okay, both available right here when you go into all apps right there. Okay, so you got Forms and you got Power Apps right there. The forms you will want to use if you want to make a quick form or a quick survey. So you go over here, you say new quiz or new form right there, and I already have one over here that I started. So you name it whatever you want to name it. You add new properties, whatever kind of questions and stuff you want to ask here in this particular survey, and then you share it easily, just like this tip is saying over here. That's really good, and it works very nice if you want to have anonymous forms or simple forms. But once you get into much more complex scenarios, that's where you want to go to Power Apps. And I'll actually show you a Power App a little bit later as well, so you can see it running. But that's the big difference. You got the forms for simple stuff, you got Power Apps for much more complex stuff. Since Contoso is a consulting company, one of the requirements is the consulting team needs an easy way to track one-on-one consulting engagements. Right? They sell an engagement for change management. They need to be able to fulfill that. In this case, they have a nice gift card type of methodology where you can actually just buy the hours, and then you can just use those hours as you need them, and then they need a place to track those hours. So let's see how they did that. They chose to create an application using the back end being SharePoint List, the front end being Power Apps, and then also using Power Automate to flow the different things, to have the workflow. Okay, so these are the apps: SharePoint, Power Automate, Power Apps, for automating their business processes, integrating it all together. The consulting services tracking app, they use SharePoint List for their clients, for hours billed, put all the information there. Power Apps was used for customized forms and views, and Power Automate for the actual approval process. So when someone does purchase hours, it goes in there and lead for consulting gets notified. Afterwards, where actually hours are being used and someone is logging it directly within the Power App, once again an automation is getting kicked off for the approval process. This is a sample of what the consulting SharePoint list looks like. So you have the customers, purchases, sessions, user info, all this stuff right here to store the information. Screenshot of what the Power App looked like. So having the different specific organizations directly in here, and then you can put the consulting hours right there, made from scratch, the Power App. And then Power Automate. As I mentioned, Power Automate, formerly called Flow, in this case lets Contoso automate all these workflows in the back end from system to system. Many different systems are connected, and they're available. So here's a sample application built using Power Apps. You have the exploration over here. You click on different things and you can explore how many hours were purchased, how many hours does each company have. Completely built using Power Apps, available on the mobile, cell phone, tablet. You add a new purchase here. So you're doing this as, once again from any device, putting the information, click on submit. I won't go through all this stuff right now, but so once that happens, automatically a process in the back end from the Power Apps, a Power Automate workflow gets kicked off, and that tells the system what to add. So for example here, see, this is the backend system, SharePoint list here. Actually, let me show you this thing over here. It's got the list, customers, purchases, sessions, user info. All that information is getting stored in SharePoint. So it gets entered from Power Apps, Power Automate pushes all the stuff around and gets pushed into these particular lists. And this is where it's storing all the information within the list. So that's how a complex system within Microsoft 365 can be gathered together using Power Automate, Power Apps, and SharePoint lists. Now, Contoso came to a point where they were wondering, there's an app called Yammer. We have never used Yammer. Do we need it, and why? Once again, keep in mind, Contoso Corporation, 150 people altogether. They're in the change management consulting space. Okay. Now, Yammer is really good at having threaded conversations in a large company, large group, etc. Very similar. It has a lot of similarities to Microsoft Teams in terms of how you actually have threaded conversations. It's when Yammer was first out and organizations were using it, I remember that many people said, hey, this feels like Facebook, but it's Facebook internally within an organization. That's how many people are categorizing it as. So the question here, what does Yammer do, and does Contoso need it? All right, let's talk about Yammer here. It is an enterprise social system, so it works great for mid to large size companies, usually more than 500 people at least. You can discover connections and people you don't know through the organization. So you actually can find out who else is interested in, for example, biking within your company. So you can, collaborate with them and maybe talk about some of the biking routes and maybe even go out for biking in lunchtime or something like that. Yammer conversations are very much like forums, as I was saying before. It's kind of like almost a Facebook internally, your forums in there. Many large companies in the world have been and still continue to use Yammer. This is even before Microsoft purchased Yammer. They're still using it. I know a corporation, for example, 80,000 people. They chose to replace their list serves completely with Yammer. They've been super happy for many, many years using it. There is definitely a lot of overlap with Microsoft Teams. Some people even wonder why keep those two systems, but Microsoft has their reasons. Like I said, they purchased Yammer and Teams was built in-house. So they both have their need, but yes, there is definitely a big overlap with Yammer, with Teams and Yammer as well. Question then comes, Teams versus Yammer, what's the difference and which should I use, right? Especially for an organization like the Contoso we're talking about, or your organization, which may be a small, mid, or large size. What's the difference? Should you use it or not? So for Teams, let's talk about that first. It is built by Microsoft, and the backend of Teams is SharePoint. It's a chat-based workspace. You can work together with those you already know, one-on-one and easy, communication. It does have some limits though, so it can't be used for company-wide communication if it's a really big company. So currently, it's a 10,000 members limit that you can have within a team. So if your company is 20,000, 30,000, 100,000, then you need a different system to be able to, make company-wide announcements. For example, if you want to make that, it cannot be done in Microsoft Teams because it does have a limit. You can't have everybody in one team. Yammer, it was purchased by Microsoft in 2014 and became part of Microsoft Office 365. It does have very broad discussion groups, and you can cross team boundaries with that. And it is very much built for enterprise communications and social networking. Like I said, many people draw the parallel of kind of like Facebook within your organization. That's what it feels like. And it is a many-to-many communications mechanism, discovering people you don't know. Okay, that's what Yammer is all about. So then the question becomes, once again, Teams or Yammer, when to use what? Well, here's my take on it. Small teams, 10 to 500 people, you want to use Teams only, and you can work with people you know very easily. If it's medium to large teams, greater than 500 people, you can use Teams and Yammer. You don't have to do Teams or Yammer. You can use Teams and Yammer because they are definitely better together. And then you can discover people you don't know necessarily also using Yammer, because now you're doing enterprise social. And, many times executives also can get a good feel for what's going on in their company just by going into different forums, different threads within Yammer. So that's really awesome. And of course, you can make company-wide announcements directly through Yammer also. A word of caution, you want to avoid redundancy. Use both only if there's a good need for it. Otherwise, there's no point in doing that. As far as Contoso is concerned, Contoso actually stuck with Microsoft Teams. They did not use Yammer because Yammer just did not make sense for their amount of people, 150 people. Okay, so you don't have to use it, but use it if there's a need. A requirement Contoso has is to have a simple task management tool for the team. So what they're going with is Planner. Microsoft Planner is also part of Microsoft 365. It's available as an app. And in there, you have a Planner hub to see all your different boards. And boards are basically each of the boards have the tasks that you can put in there for, let's say, marketing, sales, and others. And within that, it has a Kanban approach. So you can take the task from one bucket and drag it to the other bucket, like it's showing right here. This is where you can take the task, you can drag it from one place to another if you wanted to, and that's how you're progressing from one phase to a different phase. A very awesome application, kind of light because Planner is not as rich as Microsoft Project, but Planner does the job for task management. You have Microsoft Planner, and then you also have Microsoft Project. Project is much more expensive. It's not truly part of Microsoft 365. I guess you can kind of get it as part of it, but you have to pay extra. Planner comes with it. Planner is a good task management, light task management tool. Project is where you want to go for extensive resource management, HR management, and stuff like that. Let's talk about Planner here for a second. So these are different boards. You got a board here. You can have additional boards. If I go to my task, I see, well, there's nothing there right now, but I would see all the different tasks from all different boards. It could be an IT board, sales, marketing, retail, stuff like that. And within that, you got these buckets. To do, high priority, medium priority, and if I want to take a to-do item like damaged network cable, that's pretty high priority. I want to go ahead and move it here. And then when you go into the actual task, here's all the different properties of it. You got the actual bucket, the progress, priority, notes, and all that stuff, and you can assign multiple people here as well, just like that. So a really cool application for you to manage tasks, work with them with your team. Once again, if it's at a big company level, you want to think about Microsoft Project, but for small teams, medium-sized teams even, Planner is great. We use that at VisualSP all the time as well, so a great application. Another requirement that Contoso has is that they record all of their demos, their customer presentations, their meetings and all, so they needed a place to put all that stuff. And currently some of that stuff was going on FileShare, and other stuff was going on YouTube as private videos that they would share with people. So they needed a better way for this thing. What came about for that was Stream. So Microsoft Stream is one of the apps within Microsoft 365, and that lets you upload as many videos as you want. There is a limit in terms of I believe 500 gigabyte or something like that, but still a pretty good big limit. As soon as you put it in, it has auto transcription. As you can see right here, there's automatically transcripting everything that you put in there, which helps quite a bit with especially search and discovery of content that you put in there. So Stream is a great internal YouTube, so to say, that you can put in there. You can have different channels that you can devise, so you can have different video categories, basically different folders you can put stuff in, and then send people directly to Stream. You can do your training through that as well. So that's what Contoso did, they went ahead and put their training videos, their customer demos, meetings, internal meetings, everything in Stream. Here's the actual Microsoft Stream in a tenant that we used to use. We moved away from that now, but this is an actual tenant with actual videos and channels and stuff that we used to utilize. So you see trending videos, you see popular channels. I'm going to click on one of them and you can see that the video comes up. I'm going to pause it here. On the right is a transcript. At the bottom you got all the information, the metadata about it. You can even search the transcript easily. So if I want to search for something, you can actually go into the search box and put a term in there, and it will actually find the exact moment something is being talked about. Now the challenge with a lot of the things that I've been talking about is there's a lot of information that obviously is coming in from all different places to a user. The challenge has become the context, not the content by itself. So Delve and Discovery View within OneDrive, that's what Discovery View is, really helps with the context. Let me talk to you about that. This is Delve. Delve is an application that a user goes to and they see all the content that's relevant to them. Okay, so Contoso did decide to open up Delve. Some organizations, bigger organizations, actually have decided not to open up Delve for reasons because of the perception. I've heard from many people, especially in Europe actually, that when users started seeing content from other people, they started wondering and thinking, hey, should I be seeing content from these other folks? And there was that perception issue, so they turned it off, and that happened in many big organizations that I'm aware of. As far as Contoso is concerned, this was great for them to send, for them to allow their people to go into Delve and see all the content, all the people that they relate to. So it just made sense. And then if there was any perception issues, they were going to go ahead and talk to them about it, exactly why they're seeing what they're seeing. But a wonderful application to bring context to your content. So this is, as I was saying, that the education on Delve is very much needed. So my advice, as always, me personally, is that provide guidance in context of their environment. So provide some information directly in Delve, somewhere in Delve or on top of Delve as an overlay, a pop-up or an announcement bar or something like that, that lets people know the first time they come over there that this is the reason that they're seeing what they're seeing. Alright, another requirement that Contoso has is the need for dashboards to surface up important data from within the organization. Power BI is used for that. So in Power BI, which is Power Business Intelligence, if you have the licensing for that, there's the primary licensing, then there's a pro licensing you can get as well to be able to create many dashboards and share it across your organization. In Power BI, you can make as many dashboards as you want to show data from within your organization and even from external to your organization if you have connectors to bring in the data, as you can see in this dashboard right there. Right, so what they started with, what Contoso started with, they had the need to show specifically the adoption of Microsoft Office 365 by itself. All right, so the adoption dashboard, which actually is available for free if you do a search for Microsoft Office 365 Power BI adoption dashboard, you'll find that you can download something like this, and also you can download this as well. This is the application statistics basically. Specific, so in this case it's showing SharePoint dashboard of exactly what the usage is in terms of the total sites, the active files and things like that. So applications, deep applications like SharePoint, you can get some deep analysis of as well, like this with Power BI. As I was saying before, that you can get information from external sources. So in this case it's showing a sales and marketing dashboard, something that I'm sure every organization wants to see, their sales and marketing efforts, if they're paying off or not. And doing it within Power BI just gives you the same Microsoft 365 suite where you can make the dashboards and share it with others as well directly here. So this data could be coming from their own Salesforce, HubSpot, other CRM, things like that, or even more externally from outside sources if needed. Power BI does require extra licensing, by the way, so keep that in mind. especially to share and create advanced reports. But this is what it looks like. See, very, very, very interactive of what you can do in here. A lot of good stuff. Definitely, I would suggest play around with some of the samples that come with Power BI, and then see if this kind of stuff and filtering and charting and graphing and all that stuff is for you. I would very highly recommend Power BI. It's a very extremely powerful application. Once again, it does require extra licensing, to be careful about that. Now, I've been showing all these different systems: OneDrive, SharePoint, Planner, Excel, and everything else, and hopefully you noticed that many of the slides that I showed, also there's this OneDrive help or SharePoint help, this tab that's always there, and that's the VisualSP system. So that's what provides the contextual micro-learning help to people. So if I'm in OneDrive, for example, I click on this OneDrive help button, and all the OneDrive specific content is right there for my users. Okay, same thing if I'm in SharePoint, I click on the SharePoint help button, then it has the SharePoint specific content right there. And then there's the ability to enable edit mode. This is for the administrators of the VisualSP system, and add new help items. And there's lots of different help items that can be created. So if you're interested in something like that and how to provide the contextual micro-learning and communication, because we can also do banners and stuff like that, let us know. You can contact me, contact VisualSP.com, and then we'll go from there. In summary, my advice to everyone is going to be: use only what's needed. Don't overwhelm your users with providing them too much content. You want to eliminate redundant systems and just use the things that they need, and provide very specific guidance. My advice always is to provide contextual guidance. There's the concept of contextual micro-learning, which I truly, truly believe in, meaning that once they are in context and in their flow of work, and they being end users, they have a moment of need where they're looking for some content, some guidance, information, provide them help, provide them micro-learning at their moment of need in context. And then also make sure a need exists before using a new process system. This kind of goes along with what I was saying before. You want to make sure to not have redundant systems that are just there for the sake of being there, and then people are confused as to, okay, where am I supposed to go to Yammer, or am I supposed to go to Teams to make this conversation, or Outlook conversations, or somewhere else? That just creates a lot of chaos. So I would definitely recommend not doing that. Some next steps: you can start by downloading my presentations. This presentation, as well as all other presentations that I do, are available at this link. And what I was showing before with VisualSP for VisualSP in context guidance system, our product, there's actually a free version of it in partnership with Microsoft. So there's a VisualSP for Microsoft Learning Pathways training. This is how you can get it from this particular bit.ly link. It is free, so if you feel that it's helping you, please help spread the word, give it to others as well. And reach out to me if you would like to talk about additional scenarios, about user adoption, about other things within Microsoft 365 that you have questions about. Feel free, asif@visualsp.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and thanks very much for your time. Take care.